hello, beautiful divine souls.
Welcome back to Goddess of Rebirth or Goddess Unleashed, the podcast where we explore all things related to womb wellness and female body health. I'm Monica, your host, and today I have a very special guest, Holly Hurst. Holly is a doula with over 10 years of experience counseling families and attending births. She has worked with hundreds of parents and babies as a postpartum doula and lactation counselor. She's passionate about preparing families for birth and helping women get what they want during their labor so that they can achieve safer, more comfortable, and more satisfying birth experiences. Her experience attending births in both the United States and China gives her a unique perspective on how women and babies are treated and cared for in different cultures and medical systems, and helps her when educating expats who are expecting to give birth in China. Currently, Holly is in the United States working as a midwife's assistant for home births while studying to become a nurse midwife. She continues to work with families in China through online by teaching childbirth education classes, breastfeeding education classes, and doing private consultations to help families have a smoother pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience. Wow, what an honor, Holly, to have you here with me today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today, Monica. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Before we dive into our conversation, can you tell me a little bit about your journey? What is a doula to begin with, for those that, have never heard about this before, and how did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah. So a doula is a non-medical support person that is generally hired independently by parents who are expecting to give birth. And your doula is your mentor and your friend and a really knowledgeable person to walk you through your pregnancy, answer questions that you have, talk about any fears that you have, and really help you prepare for your birth. Your doula then goes to the hospital with you or wherever you're planning to give birth, and she's there as your emotional support person. So, for example, the doctors, the midwives, the nurses, they're all there to make sure that physically you and your baby are safe during the birth process. But birth is more than just a physical process, it's a very emotional process as well. And so the doula is here to support you emotionally as you go through your labor so that you have much more satisfying birth outcomes, less birth trauma, and people who actually have a doula there supporting them emotionally and physically during their birth have safer outcomes for both them and their babies.
That is so beautiful and so empowering too. Because I'm not a mom, I'm not planning to be, but we were talking about this before, and it is so scary to, at least for me, being at the foreign country, and I don't know, just the whole experience sounds very scary. So what you're doing is such a sacred, beautiful work, and I'm so honored to get to learn more from you and to get to spread the word to the world about what you're doing. How do you feel like becoming a doula has impacted your view on women's empowerment?
Becoming a doula has been everything, affecting my view on women's empowerment. Um, I I think everyone gets into doula practice through different routes. A lot of people enter doula practice after having their own baby and feeling like they did not have the birth experience that they wanted and that they deserved in the hospital. And they want to help other moms to, avoid some of the pitfalls that they came across when birthing their baby. I definitely joined the doula industry from like a women's empowerment point of view and a feminist perspective, because as soon as you start learning about what can happen in the birth room and how women's voices are not always being magnified, it becomes really evident and really important that this is an area where I can have a big impact in helping women, being my friends and talking about some of the experiences they went through, I quickly saw that becoming a doula was a really powerful way to benefit moms and babies, not only in the birth room, but for their whole lives. So having somebody there to be with you, to explain to you what's going on in the hospital, to help you to relax and feel more comfortable through like kind words, visualizations, massage and counter pressure points to reduce pain really is a powerful thing when somebody is going through their journey to motherhood and starting out motherhood from a feeling of like, I'm empowered. I got what I wanted in the hospital. I had the birth experience that I wanted, has huge ripple effects in mom's and baby's life for years to come.
I do feel like sometimes it's not all the time about having my wishes granted, but sometimes it's about basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like women have no voice. They're being told what to do every second of their journey, but they are never listened to. They are never there's no room for them to express like, hey, I'm feeling this, so I need that, or I might. And this is my impression. Like I've no expertise at all, but I do feel like every person has a different journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific, a very individual need that person's going to have. But the medical system is so structured in a way that treats everybody the exact same way. And there's such a high demand, but they go like fast, 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 fast. And I'll try to ignore as much as I can because I don't have time. I might not have the resources to provide what you're asking for. So your role as that support is so vital, so crucial. And like you said, starting with a woman feeling empowered as she's birthed a new life, that is totally changing the world. My next question for you is, what are some of the biggest challenges women face in the childbirth process, and how do you assist them in overcoming these obstacles?
Okay, that's a great question. So, starting with the medical system, like you mentioned, the hospitals themselves, the doctors themselves are under a lot of pressures and demands. And it's not necessarily their fault that they're under these pressures and demands. There are administrators at the top level of the hospital. There's lawyers telling them what they can and can't do. And sometimes that leads to policies in the hospital that are beneficial for the hospital, but not so beneficial for mom. And that can lead to women feeling like they are forced or coerced to do something that they don't want to do, which legally they can do whatever they want in the hospital room. When you go into the hospital and you're giving birth there, you did not sign a contract with the hospital saying you'd abide by their policies, right? If a nurse or a medical provider comes into your room and says something like, no, you have to lay down, you cannot get up and walk around, even though you know that's what's going to make you feel better right now. Laying down during labor is not going to make you feel good. And so when they say things like this to you, it can feel like that's what you have to do. But that's just hospital policy. They can say that to you and you can say, thank you, I hear you. I would feel much better if I get up and I walk around. And that's the end of the conversation. But without guidance, without the guidance of like a doula or someone who has been here in the hospital room before, it's really hard to suss out what is a policy that I have to follow? What is a policy I don't have to follow? Is something I'm being told to do? Is it a hospital policy? Is it being done for me and my health and my safety? And all we want when we're giving birth is to be safe. And so having somebody there who can help you figure out what is being done for safety and what's being done for like liability purposes can also help moms to feel much better and confident in the hospital.
What do you think that are some of the biggest challenges that women face in the childbirth process? Is it trusting? Is it fear? Or are there any specific obstacles, or is it individual? What do you think?
I think it's definitely individual. But the biggest challenge that I see moms having when preparing to give birth and in the birth process is just not knowing what's going to happen. And that not knowing what's going to happen, that kind of mystery leads to a fear of the unknown. Because I don't know about you or any of your listeners, but almost every story that I heard before I became a doula, every story that I heard about birth was negative. And it was all these horror stories about how I was in labor for 3 days and I had a massive tear and my body's never the same and it was awful, just really bad stuff. And that scares a lot of moms. And when you're pregnant, for some reason, people like to share those scary stories even more, which is not helpful when you're preparing to give birth yourself. And so this combination of like not knowing what's going to happen, plus you're hearing a lot of scary stories, is not setting you up. It's not setting you up for a nice, calm, satisfying birth. And so something that I work really hard on in my childbirth education classes and in my consults with couples individually is to talk about what to expect, to talk about what labor is going to look like from all aspects, because we know labor can go any of, 100 ways. And so in my classes and in my consultations, we don't just talk about textbook labor. We talk about the variations that could happen. We don't just talk about the labor that you want, because it may be that you can't get what you want for a variety of reasons. Maybe you need an epidural and you didn't want one, or maybe you wanted your induction and you cannot be induced, or maybe you wanted a C-section and now you can't have one. So I like to talk about all of the different avenues that this can take, so that when you're in the labor room and something does change, which inevitably it does, it's not a shock to you. You don't feel afraid when this happens. You've already talked about this with a professional and you've already thought about what you would do in this situation. And so knowing all of these different avenues that birth can take and being prepared for all of them really brings a lot of comfort and peace to parents. And I wish everybody had that, because it really makes it a lot easier when you're going to birth your baby and you know what to expect.
I do feel like the journey of empowerment needs to begin way before you are giving birth,
Mm-hmm.
probably even way before you get pregnant. Because then when you get to that point where like you're facing such unexpected situations, decisions, and stuff, when you come from a place of empowerment, then it's not that terrifying and it's not that shocking, like you said. And then I can adapt, I'm flexible, I do have option B, plan C, and I know how to navigate that.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is such power. And so giving the moms and dads, going into this, the knowledge that they're going to need, super powerful and makes a huge difference.
And support is power too. Having someone at your side who knows what to do, where to go, and how to assist you. Oof, makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. My next question for you, Holly: in what ways do cultural and societal attitudes towards childbirth affect women, and how can a doula help navigate these pressures?
That's an excellent question. Books have been written on this question. Attitudes and culture towards birth is huge. It's everything. And I've seen a lot of variations, between cultures and attitudes towards birth working in the United States and in China. So, for example, when I talk to moms who are surrounded by a culture of positivity around birth, where they're in a culture and have like friendship groups where they talk about, what birth's like, and they share their positive stories, and they support each other through pregnancy, and they know they have a support network after they give birth when they come home. It makes a huge difference. So something that I really love about China is in China, there's a really strong emphasis on taking care of the mom and baby after birth. So we have, the period of confinement where moms and babies stay home, and they're taken care of by a USL. And this is something that I would do as well as a postpartum doula. I would come into people's homes and check in on them, make sure they're doing okay, answer any questions they have about what's going on in their body and with their baby. And it makes a really big difference. Moms are so much more satisfied, so much happier, significantly reduced rates of postpartum depression and anxiety. Whereas in the US, we don't really do that. The US is a very individualistic society. And I mean, we're the only industrialized nation without maternity leave. Like half of the moms, I think I saw a statistic, like half of the moms who give birth are back at work after 2 weeks. It's just crazy. And we don't have networks of support like China does. And we don't talk about how it's important to take care of moms like China does. And so that's something that I really admire about the Chinese society and culture, is the way they take care of moms and babies after birth.
I also don't know if this was a social media trend, or I don't really know how it started, but I noticed that when I was a teenager, I'm the oldest in my family, the oldest child. And so when my mom gave birth to my younger brother, she was quarantined for like 40 plus days. And my grandma had like, my grandma, she had like these Mexican traditional practices that were like how to take care of the mom and the baby. And she was well supported. And I grew up seeing that. And then when my sister-in-law gave birth, it was more like and this was not that long ago. It was more like a, how fast can I recover?
Yeah.
Who's like, like I just gave birth, but then the next day my body is like super curvy and I'm back into my daily routine. I'm working out and like I'm like, what's happening? I felt like there was something that was not right. And I do want to say that it was a social media influence, because like famous people suddenly were like, oh, she just gave birth, and 2 weeks later, like, wow, her body looks amazing, and she's already giving a concert and stuff. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not natural. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, especially I can speak, from the US perspective, we really have this culture of like glorifying bouncing back as quickly as possible. And so now, there are a significant number of women, especially in like the LA area, who will give birth by cesarean and then get a tummy tuck at the same time so that they can look their best, as soon as possible. And then, be back at work as soon as possible. And then we glorify these moms who are, back at their daily routines as soon as possible. But like, childbirth is hard, guys. There's a lot that happens to your body during pregnancy, during birth, whether you're giving birth vaginally or by cesarean. You need time to rest. And a cesarean is not an easy birth choice. I know a lot of people look at that as like, it's the easy way out, and it's not. It takes longer to recover from a cesarean birth than it does a vaginal birth. And so we really need to be giving moms time to rest and take care of themselves and have that really special time with their baby. A lot of times when we get back to our daily routines really fast, we end up missing out on these once in a lifetime moments with your baby that are never coming back. You only get to have this baby this small, this age, one time. And so I really encourage my clients to like slow down, enjoy these moments with your baby, whatever that looks like. yeah, take care of yourself and enjoy your baby, guys.
We should glorify mommies resting. We should see more of that on social media. Moms who are like giving themselves time off, and like
Yes.
just honoring the beauty of their body, because I there's a whole not another conversation that we're not going to get into, but
We should really glorify and encourage moms and women to take care of themselves, because I think this goes back to, this whole idea that women have been fed that we need to sacrifice ourselves. We need to sacrifice our bodies. We need to sacrifice our wants and our desires. And we don't have to. We can take care of ourselves, and we should glorify, and raise up women who are taking care of themselves and who are doing the things that they feel are right for themselves. Because I talk to a lot of women who feel the pressure to get back to work or get back to their daily routine or get their hot yoga body back as soon as possible. And they really would have rather like chill with their baby. And that's okay if you do that. That is great if that's what you want to do. On the other hand, if you really want that hot yoga body back and that's what's going to make you feel good and happy, do that too. I'm all about women doing what feels good for them, because women know themselves best.
absolutely this. And I do feel like these kind of conversations, at least from my intention when opening up the space for these kind of conversations, is never to shame anyone, but to
Mhm.
take the weight off the shoulders of all of those who feel the pressure of like, oh, she already looks so good and she's already back at work. And I am one of those that whenever I had a surgery, an accident, I am so slow at recovering. I
Mhm.
am one of those that, the doctor said 2 months and it took me 9.
Yep.
And so I know how to rest, and I know how to take care of myself, and I know how to embrace that slow process. But
Mhm.
I have experienced that feeling of seeing someone on social media that had the exact same kind of surgery, and I don't know, 30 days later, that person was back on and was claiming, like, this is a miracle and the blessing of God. I'm back on my feet. And I'm like, oh, wait, you mean that I am not blessed and I am not the miracle because I'm not back on my feet? So it's exactly like you said. Everybody will have a different journey, a different experience, and honoring that and embracing that is the beauty of life. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we see, women who are bouncing back quickly, or like you said, people who are recovering from surgery really fast, faster than you, it can sometimes feel like a personal failing. You know, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with my body? Why can't I do that? And the fact is, we're all different. All bodies are different, and nobody's journey looks the same as another person's journey. And so, like you said, it's really important to take that pressure off of moms, which society and culture has put so much pressure on women. Take that pressure off so that you can listen to your gut and your feelings to know what your journey should look like and feel like, and to feel good about that journey. Um, and we talk about after birth, the recovery period is 6 weeks. The recovery period after pregnancy and birth is longer than that. It takes about 3 years to fully recover your body's systems, to fully replenish your nutritional stores after growing, carrying, and birthing a baby, because there's a lot of us that gets taken out of our bodies and put into our babies. And it does take time to rebuild that. And it is good to honor that time and give yourself grace during that recovery period.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And now that you're speaking about that, um, my next question for you is, can you discuss the importance of postpartum support and how doulas contribute to a women's recovery and adjustment to motherhood, which is aligned to what you were just saying?
Mhm. Yeah, so similar how I talked about how during birth during pregnancy. Doulas are here to like guide, give information, talk about parents' fears and concerns with them, and then help them address that. We do those same things postpartum. So, what it looks like when somebody calls me is a client calls me, they just had a baby and they've done all this preparation for their birth. And then in the hospital, you have 24-hour support. And then when you go home, you're on your own. And that's where you go, uh-oh, we didn't think about what this would look like. And so you get on the internet, you Google, how often should my baby eat? And your baby is eating in a totally different way than the books or Google say. Spoiler alert, your baby did not read Google or those books. So your baby does not know what they're supposed to be doing. So there's a huge variation in normal, and that can freak a lot of people out. So people hire me, I come into their home, I ask a lot of questions so I get more data and information. And then I talk about what do they want. Some parents want to exclusively breastfeed. Cool, I'm there for it. Some parents want to exclusively pump and then bottle feed. Awesome, I'm going to help you with that. Some parents want to dry their milk up as soon as possible and feed formula. I'm also here for that. I'm here for all of it. And I'm here to do it without judgment and to give them support. And that's something that a lot of people don't get from their friends, their family, and from society. Because when you have a baby, anyone who's had a baby knows this, suddenly everyone and their mom is giving you advice on how to raise your baby and to say, no, don't do that. Do it this way. Or don't sleep with your baby. You'll kill your baby. Or don't leave your baby alone in a room. You'll kill your baby. And suddenly everything is really, really scary. And so I come in and we just bring the temperature down. Let's slow down. Let's talk about how you can do what you want to do with your baby safely. And then I'm here to support you and say, like, yeah, what you're doing is okay. It doesn't look the same as what your family is doing, what your friends are doing, but the data says it's okay. So do it. And having somebody there, especially a professional, to support moms in their wishes for how they want to take care of their baby, parent their baby, gives them huge confidence. And it really minimizes those voices, both outside and in their head that says things like, I'm not doing a good job. And that's huge.
Yeah, I don't think a woman was ever supposed to raise a baby alone.
Mm-hmm.
It was never supposed to be that way. There was supposed to be a network, support, people around her helping and providing, and that has not been the story recently, right? I don't know when it changed, but I feel like that is not how it works nowadays.
Absolutely. Yeah, hundreds of years ago when we lived in closer knit societies and groups, you would have already seen several people give birth and breastfeed before it was your turn to give birth. You would have already helped raise these babies of other people in your culture and society before you had your own baby. And suddenly, with modernization, we're all kind of on our own. And the first time that you give birth, it might be the first time you ever see a birth, if you even saw your birth at all. And that can be really scary. When it comes to postpartum and breastfeeding, there's this conception that babies know how to breastfeed, and if you just bring them to your boob, they'll do it. Babies don't know what they're doing. And so we have to teach them how to breastfeed and how to breastfeed in a way that is not going to hurt you and, lead to things like cracked nipples, bleeding nipples. For the record, cracked nipples, bleeding nipples are not normal. I know a lot of people say things like, if you breastfeed, you're going to have this and that's normal and that's okay. It's not. And and those are the kind of things where we need people to come in and support and say, oh, I see you have this issue. Here's a solution. And hundreds of years ago, we would have seen tons of women breastfeeding. It was very normal in even puritanical cultures and religions to have your breast out and breastfeed during church. And that was fine. And we have moved so far away from it that when we get to where we're breastfeeding and we're taking care of our baby, this is all new. And so it's really helpful to have a professional to come in and give you guidance to help you get on top of it as soon as possible and feel good about your postpartum period.
Yes, yes, yes. What advice do you have for women who are exploring their birthing options and considering a doula support?
I would say do it. um, I know not everyone feels like they need a doula, and not everybody does need a doula. There are some women who would prefer to do it alone, who feel like they can get what they need, from books and internet. And if you're that person, that's awesome. And I really hope that, everything goes well, because there are women who can do that. But I would say for the most part, for the majority of women, having that support and that guidance, it makes it so much easier and so much better. Because I hear from moms who go at it alone after they have their baby and they say, I didn't know what I didn't know. It's hard to know what you need to know until you go through it. And then when you go through your birth, you can look back and say, oh, I would have done this differently. Oh, I wish I had asked for that. I wish I had told them not to do this. Almost everyone I talk to who has given birth says things like that. And so having a doula beforehand, even if you don't know why you're hiring this person, even if you don't know, like, what could this person possibly teach me, I can guarantee the things that we talk about and the education that you'll receive helping you prepare will be beneficial.
And that kind of leads me to the next question, but maybe somebody learning from your courses and receiving the education that is previous to giving birth will definitely feel the assurance of that this is my path, this is exactly what I need. So my next question for you is, what are the benefits of childbirth education and how that helps parents to prepare for birth?
Okay, this is a big question and one I'm so excited about, because if there was one thing that I could tell every pregnant person and every couple to do prior to giving birth, no matter what type of birth you want, get childbirth education, because you don't know what you don't know. So, for example, I teach a 6-week childbirth education course through evidence-based birth. Evidence-based birth is an amazing resource. If you're pregnant, I highly recommend looking it up. They have a lot of free resources out there for parents to look at, to learn more about what is evidence and what is not. So I teach a 6-week course. And in the first course, we talk a lot about the fear, tension, pain cycle. So what this is somebody who is afraid. Maybe they don't know what's happening in the hospital. They don't know what to expect. They don't know why the doctors and nurses are doing this. They're going to feel afraid and they're going to feel nervous. When they feel afraid, then they start to feel more tension. Their body tenses up, their muscles tense up. And as your body does that, you feel more pain during childbirth. And so now you feel more afraid. And now you feel more tense. And now you feel more pain during childbirth. And it's this cycle that goes on. And it can make birth a really negative experience because you're feeling so much pain and so much fear, and that's feeding off of each other. On the other hand, we have this hormone in our body called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone that causes contractions. It's also the happy hormone that you feel when you hug somebody you love. It's the hormone that you feel when you pet your dog or your cat and your cat starts purring and you go, wow, this is great. It's the hormone that you feel when you have an orgasm. The hormone that you feel when you have an orgasm is the same hormone that is driving your contractions to get your baby out. So, what we can do during birth is when we love and support moms and they feel comforted, they feel confident because they know what's going on, they're going to have more oxytocin. That oxytocin is going to help to relax their body, and it's going to help contractions to be more effective so their body doesn't have to work as hard. And then they're going to feel more confident. They're going to feel like, oh, yeah, we've got this. We know what's going on. And that leads to more comfort, more oxytocin, and an easier birth. When we feel afraid, we have a hormone called adrenaline in our body. And you know, adrenaline is the fight or flight hormone. Adrenaline cancels oxytocin. These hormones work against each other. And so it's really, really important that parents feel confident. They know what's going on, so they don't feel afraid. Because now when they feel afraid, their body has to work harder, and it just makes everything more difficult. So my wish for everybody is they would take a childbirth education class so they could really benefit from the oxytocin cycles, feel happy, and then have an easier birth.
As you're explaining it, it comes to my mind that it could potentially be the greatest experience of your life, or the most frightening experience where your body's just gonna try to survive. Like if you're in adrenaline mode, you're like, I'm gonna die, so how do I survive? Which is probably not the most natural form of childbirth. You wanna make it a more pleasant experience. I love when you teach the couple. It's not only mom is the one in charge, mom's the one who prepares, mom's the one who needs all the knowledge, but it's both mom and dad.
Absolutely.
And so how doulas can support dads in their education and in their journey preparing for childbirth?
Yes. I love this question because, like we've been talking about moms and babies. This is dad's journey too. Dad is going from being just a man to now a dad. And that's a huge change for them. And they often don't get the support that they need. And again, with our cultural and our social expectations on men, we don't expect them to talk about their feelings. We don't expect them to have feelings to talk about. And that's just not the case, right? Men are living, breathing, feeling people. And we need to be taking care of them too. And we need to be checking in with them and see how they feel through this whole process. What kind of fears do they have? Because not only are they going to have a baby, but they're going to see the person that they love more than anything in this world go through childbirth. And to them, that is terrifying. That is really scary for dads to see their partners in pain, to see their partners making all these sounds that they've never heard their partner make, and they don't know what to do. And that's a really helpless feeling. So in my childbirth education classes, I do focus on the dads a lot as well, because dads are a huge part of this team. So you remember how I was talking just now about our oxytocin cycles? When we're comfortable, we have more oxytocin, we have better contractions, we feel more confident. We have that oxytocin when we have an orgasm. Guess what you're going to feel when your partner knows how to touch you to make you feel good in the birth room? When your partner, that person you love more than anything else, is giving you a back massage, is saying things to you like, you've got this, honey, you're so close, you're doing such a great job. When they know how to press on your hips or your back to relieve pain and tension during contractions, that's huge. And so me as a doula, I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to touch, moms to make them feel better. My favorite thing is to teach the dads how to do this skill too, because my clients don't love me the way they love their partner. And so when they're doing these hip squeezes to reduce that contraction pain, they're getting the hip squeeze and that dose of oxytocin. And that is just the most perfect thing ever. It's going to give dads a lot more confidence to show up and be there and know what to do, because dads want to help. Men want to help. They're fixers, generally speaking, right? They see a problem, they want to fix it. So I really like giving them the tools so that they know how to fix it. And then we see dads who were involved in the birth, the labor, they're going to be more involved in the postpartum period. The dads feel empowered. They don't feel like this is women's work and they don't want me here. I've been pushed to the back burner. Because a lot of dads feel like that. They feel like they've been pushed to the back burner, or they're not supposed to get involved because they might mess something up. And that's the last thing they want to do. And so it's important that dads are empowered in this process as well, to be able to feel confident. They can step in there, they can help, they can do this. They're not going to mess up. They're actually going to really benefit the situation if they have the tools and get involved.
And I do remember you were telling me about an experience you had with a father that was a little resistant, and he was like, "No, this is not my job. I don't belong here." But then when he finally got into the childbirth process, and he was so needed at that moment. His role was crucial. He needed to be where he was, and he knew exactly what to do, and it was one of the most empowering experiences that he had ever had in his life, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Yeah. And this dad that you're mentioning, his wife dragged him to my childbirth education classes, which happens a lot. These moms are like, this is really important. We're going to take this class and you're coming too. And the dads go, okay, well, I love you. I guess I'll show up. Because it is a lot of learning. It's a lot of education. It's a 6-week class. And seeing, how these dads' attitudes change is fantastic. So like dads will watch the online videos that I give them to watch. And they're like, oh, this isn't so important. I don't need to know this stuff. And then I give them a quiz. They need to take a quiz. And when they get an F on that quiz, they go, not me. I'm not getting an F. And they go back and they watch those videos again. And then when they're in the appointments later, they may say things to the midwife or the doctor like, can you tell me the status of her cervical effacement? And the doctor and midwife looks at them and they go, oh my God, how do you know those words? And he says, oh, my wife dragged me to these classes. And then the doctor says, wow, you're doing such an amazing job. And dad's like, I am doing a good job. I have got this. This has been beneficial. And it really boosts their confidence. And those are the dads you want by your side in the birth room.
So to any dad out there who's terrified or who's probably saying, nah, I'm not so quite sure, are you ready to have one of the most empowering experiences of your life? Sign up. Mm-hmm. This is a couple. It's a teamwork. It's just the same way that you guys prepare for conception. Yep. It was not only the girl doing all the work, but it was a couple.
This is a team effort. This is a family that you're creating. And so having both of parents involved and not only making the baby, which, again, not everybody has a partner when they make a baby, but, having a partner there to support you in birth is huge. So if you're pregnant, maybe you did IVF or artificial insemination, you're having a baby on your own, or you have a partner and, they're not the father, doula work and childbirth education is for you too. If you're a single mom preparing to give birth to your baby, bring a friend. Let's talk about this and how childbirth education, and birth works with a friend by your side, because we all need somebody. We can't do this alone. We don't want to do this alone.
If you don't have anyone, find me. I'll be happy to go with you. I'm all for it. I want to learn. I want to take the program, Holly. I'm not preparing, but
even if you're not pregnant, you're welcome to take my class. It's gonna blow your mind. It's huge.
Where can people find you? Where can they learn more? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so 2 options. One is my WeChat. It's Doulas of Shanghai, capital D Doulas of capital S Shanghai. Or if you just Google or Bing doulas of Shanghai, you'll see my website. It's doulasofshanghai.com. And then you can click on that to contact me directly through the website, through an email, and then they can also set up appointments and register for my classes on the website.
This was such an enriching, beautiful conversation. And I'm so grateful that you gave me this time to talk to you about all of these beautiful things. Are there any last thoughts or any last pieces of advice that you would like to share with our listeners?
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. The only piece of advice, the most important piece of advice that I have for your listeners is to trust yourself, trust your body, listen to your gut, and then work on getting what you want. And if you don't know how to get what you want, if you don't know how, to get to your goal, ask other women. Women are here to support each other. We're here for each other. And it's really important that we're working together. So reach out for help when you need it, and then trust yourself.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Thank you so, so much, Holly, from the bottom of my heart. I thank you for your expertise, for all of your insights. And I also thank every single one of our listeners for tuning in. And I hope that you found this episode informative and inspiring, and that you get in contact with Holly as soon as you can. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember your health is the most important. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Monica.
I am thrilled to have you in my circle, and I am buzzing with excitement to conjure up some magic together. Remember, in Goddess Unleashed, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the mystical walk. Tune in and transform with me. Until next time, keep your spirits high and your magic untamed.